Hi, this is Chatterboxing. I'm Sean. I want to talk in this video about Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder. Now, the fight was a few days ago. I understand I'm a little bit late, but it's the first chance I've really had to talk about it, so I just want to say my piece on it. Also want to talk a little bit about the aftermath and where they both go from here. Now, first of all, it's a great fight. I give credit to both of them for putting on a good performance. Fury in terms of the boxing skills, Wilder in terms of like the perseverance. And taking a bit of punishment, getting out of boxing there, but still trying right until the end. And he nearly won. Like, he nearly snatched victory from the jaws of defeat at the last minute. Well, not the last round. And he came like a second away from doing it. So fair play to Wilder as well, because he was taking a bit of punishment. I'd say from, I don't remember exactly, but maybe from like the third or the fourth round. From there, Fury just took over. And started thoroughly outboxing him throughout the fight. Obviously, Wilder had the 2 rounds that he won, round 9 and round 12. The 12th, obviously, knocked him down very heavily. And I think probably he won the second round, in my opinion. He actually boxed quite well in that, Wilder. But aside from those 3, I don't really see what rounds you could give him. Maybe the first round, in the sense that it was just not really that much happened. Neither of them really landed that many punches. Wilder landed a few jabs to the body, the chest. Fury landed a few to the face. For me, a bit more eye-catching. The punches from Fury had a bit of a kind of flurry at the end as well. But in terms of the punches thrown in that round, there wasn't that much in it. I think Fury deserved to win it just because his defence was a lot better. He was making Wilder swing and miss. His ring generalship in it, he was, for me, controlling like the pace and the distance and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I wouldn't give the first round to Wilder, but if someone did, I wouldn't be that angry about it. Do you know what I mean? So 4 rounds could have given him 5. He would have needed 5 to draw. I can't see how you give him 5 rounds, to be honest with you. So I'd really struggle to give him 4. 6 round, madness. I mean, 6 round, that's mental. Now, people are possibly exaggerating the extent of how Fury outboxed him. Maybe some people. But the first few rounds a little bit slow. I do think Fury was winning, aside from the second. But there wasn't that much in it. It wasn't like some total like one-sided, beating or anything like that. I think as it then got into the middle rounds, Fury then really took over, and he was catching Fury. Like every time they had a little straight, he'd like finish it off. He was making Wilder miss. I mean, he took the right hand away from him. I mean, I think he hit him like maybe about 4 times with it. 2 of them put him down, but just some big swings in there. And he was just kind of the same combination all night, really, because he'd literally like come with that right hand, then boom, and just swing the left in after it. And Fury just kind of duck under that, and then like just lean back for the hook. So he's quite predictable. Wilder looked. I mean, he looked basically like we've always said, like against a good boxer, he's kind of out of ideas. He doesn't really know how to box. He's just very, very quick on his feet, very athletic, and he's got a very good right hand. And as obviously his career's gone on, that right hand has got better and better. Now, Tyson Fury, in my opinion, is the best boxer in the division. So the fact that he couldn't land that many of them on Tyson Fury, I mean, let's not forget Vladimir Klitschko couldn't really land that many on Tyson Fury either. So I don't think we could be too hard on Wilder in terms of his boxing ability. He's definitely mediocre at best in terms of boxing ability, but I think there are very, very few people in the heavyweight division who'd be able to land that many punches on Fury. Now, Wilder, he's quick and he's light. Now that's obviously that's something that he should get credit for as well, in my opinion. In that 12th round, like not just the persistence and the heart that he showed, but the fact that Fury, obviously being a big man, and I mean the engine of Fury is unbelievable, especially considering the layoff. But he outweighed him by about, I don't know, a few stone, maybe like about 40 pounds or something, and he's still in that 12th round, having got hit with some quite hard punches. You should see Wilder's face at the end of it. He had like quite swollen up. He was getting hit consistently throughout the fight. He still had the energy to almost knock Fury out, and he did it almost, so it's like about a second out. Fury got up, so for Wilder to still have that power and still have that desire to be able to land that, and so that, for me, deserves a bit of credit as well. And for Fury to get up from that, like, fucking hell. I mean, that, when he went down, I was just like, oh no, for fuck's sake, because he's been, comeback would have been like a ridiculous comeback. I mean, Fury to come back from like where he was, like just some great fat lump, doing a load of coke, boozing, eating a load of crap, and then coming back, fighting against two, I don't know, like ranked like 100 in the world, looking poor, then coming back to outbox the sort of consensus like number 2 heavyweight in the world like that, and then to just lose it in the last round because he got a bit sloppy. I think he got a bit carried away. Do you know what I mean? He wasn't really. He could have just got on his bike and just sort of it was coming on. To be fair, that punch he kept avoiding it, kept ducking, and then leaning back. And even in his defence, maybe that got a little bit predictable. Finally, after about 12 rounds, Wilder just kind of lowered it a little bit and kind of caught him when he was a bit further down. But still, I was thinking, no, mate, like, don't fuck it up now. And then he went down, and I thought, okay, he's not getting back up. And then he did. And it's another thing, this nonsense now. I've seen quite a few people talking about this sort of just pathetic like excuse now, trying to put this narrative of a long count. Now, he's been debunked by enough. I've seen enough people, like, even if you didn't know the rules of boxing and you didn't realise that it was the referee counting to 10 and not like a stopwatch, even if you didn't know that, you can actually count it in terms of the seconds, and he gets up. Now, enough people have done it. There's loads of videos on it. So it's just, you get this in boxing, don't you? You get like people just, whenever there's a big fight, looking for excuses, and people just, it's sad, mate. There's nothing wrong with being a fan and wanting something to happen, but when you lose, you lose. So that's the sort of excuse now. It's quite sad to see Deontay Wilder going along with it as well. I mean, I knew he was obviously very delusional, has a kind of, an excessive sort of sense of self-importance, and he thinks he's like some kind of all-time great. But he actually like put up, like I saw someone had posted a thing on Facebook that he'd actually included some just ridiculous video where like it was supposed, like they were literally like counting before Fury had hit the floor. Like, it's just nonsense, mate. I saw this other video where this bloke's counting himself. He goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So yeah, that's it is what it is. But Tyson Fury should have won the fight. Should have won like 9 rounds to 3. Should be the new WBC champion, and they basically robbed him of, like people say, one of the greatest comebacks in boxing history. Now, I'm not saying that because he did that, he should be allowed like a bit of extra credit and like given the benefit of the doubt. No, not at all. If he doesn't make the count, he doesn't make the count. If he loses the fight, he loses the fight. I mean, basically the fairness and the rules come first. But he didn't lose the fight. So he was robbed of that, which is a shame. But we just see this time and time again in boxing, and what can you do? Now, if they do make the rematch, which hopefully they will, I don't want to see it again in America. I think Fury definitely deserves to have the fight in the UK. I think it'd be a much bigger event in the UK. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's quite good out there. To be fair, it was seemed like quite a good atmosphere. Looked like quite a good crowd. Apparently they've done about, I don't know, like someone else, about 300,000 pay-per-views. I'm not really an expert on this kind of stuff, but that doesn't seem too bad to me for 2 people doing their first one, and it's quite expensive, obviously, over there. So it was actually quite a good event. But I do think in the UK it'd be much better, much bigger, much more atmosphere, the build-up would be a lot more interesting, and it's just fairer as well. And after that decision, then I don't want to see it in there, because listen, we get like dodgy decisions in the UK as well, and sometimes I look at the scorecards and I think like, that's kind of a bit. There was a bloke, I can't remember his name now, escapes me, got robbed recently. He's an English bloke against another English bloke. So we do have dodgy decisions, but America just seems to be quite common now with the big fights, getting these draws, just ridiculous scorecard. I mean, obviously the Canelo Golovkin springs to mind. There was the Andre Ward, Kovalev. There's just been loads. Even like the Canelo Mayweather fight, when the one judge like gave Canelo the fight or something, or just what I mean, madness. So I'd like to see that fight now in the UK. I think that there's no way in a million years that Anthony Joshua and Matchroom are going to put him with all those belts and all that like there in America after seeing that. That would be madness. Now some people are going to say, "Oh, but like it's going to be like a knockout anyway, so it doesn't matter." Well, that's just ridiculous. You don't get into your car and think, right, I'm going to drive to the supermarket. Like I never get like run. I never like have a car crash, so I don't put my seatbelt on. Do you know what I mean? You put your seatbelt on like in case something happens. You're prepared, aren't you? So this kind of argument, oh, it doesn't matter because it's going to go to a knockout. Well, that fight didn't go to a knockout, and look what happened. So, do you know what I mean? I'd like to see that fight happen in the UK for all the reasons I've just stated. Now, in terms of where they go from here, now, yeah, of course, I want to see the rematch. But as I always say with rematches, there are like other fights that I like to see as well, because the heavyweight division now has got so many good fighters up there and so many interesting fights to be made. I don't really like getting bogged down in rematches like straight away. Now, definitely I want to see the rematch, but I'd personally prefer like the next fight to be either Tyson Fury against Anthony Joshua or Deontay Wilder against Anthony Joshua, and then let Fury fight against Wilder. I want to see them all fight each other anyway. I don't like the way people talk in boxing now as if like, oh, the winner will fight him and then the other bloke's almost like he's, you know, it's like it's some kind of cup competition, now he's out for good. I want to see Wilder fight Joshua, and I want to see Fury fight Joshua. Do you know what I mean? And there's other fighters up there I want to see involved as well. Luis Ortiz, I'd like to see him fight both Joshua and Wilder. I'd like to see Dylan White fight I'd like to see Luis Ortiz fight Joshua and Fury. I'd like to see Dylan White fight Fury and Wilder. I mean, Povetkin, I'd like to see Povetkin fight Wilder. I don't know about Fury. I think Povetkin's just too small for Fury, to be honest. But you know, there's a lot like Jarrell Miller. I'd like to see Jarrell Miller fight against. I'd love to see Jarrell Miller against Wilder, actually, and Dominic Breazeale. I'd like to see that fight as well. To be honest, I don't really understand how in America, or maybe it's just a different culture, but in the UK, these fights, when you've got like two domestic people, like that's really good for like building up interest. Now, maybe I'm just looking at it from a British perspective, but I'm thinking like Jarrell Miller against Deontay Wilder would be surely quite a big event. Jarrell Miller's a bit of like backstory there. Jarrell Miller's like a good talker. Deontay Wilder, I wouldn't say he's a good talker, but he talks. Do you know what I mean? So they can like build up that, and that would be an interesting one as well. There's loads of big fights out there, but yeah. So final thoughts on this: Fury was robbed. Fought brilliantly. Deontay Wilder fought quite well. To be honest, he did his best. Do you know what I mean? And he's got nothing to be ashamed of. Showed heart, but he didn't get the decision. So whichever of those three fights gets made now, whether it's a Wilder Fury rematch or Fury Joshua or Wilder Joshua, they're all good with me. I'd prefer to see the new fights. Now, actually, before I got a couple of things. Tyson Fury now fought that fight at what? Well, we don't know, but coming back from massive weight gain, weight loss, drug abuse. He obviously wasn't 100%. He obviously wasn't as good as he is going to be going forward. So, how well because against Joshua, I think that Fury outboxed Joshua quite easily. I think Wilder was personally, I think Wilder was a harder fight for Fury than Joshua will be. Now, I will say as well, I was kind of doubting Wilder's power. Now, I knew he was a hard puncher, but I did think it had been a bit overstated. Now, watching from that fight, I'm now fully on the bandwagon in terms of that right hand. That is a ridiculous punch. I think he hit Fury with it maybe about 4 times. 2 of them just knocked him. The 12th round was a massive right hand. So I don't think Anthony Joshua has that kind of one punch power like Wilder. But what he does have is he has combinations. I think like he probably like both hands. He's probably like more powerful. But that one boom, that money punch, he doesn't have that Wilder does. But he can definitely put Fury down. We've seen Fury get knocked down a few times. He gets back up, but he can be knocked down. So there's definitely I could see Joshua knocking him down, and it's definitely a possibility that he could knock him out. But I do think that Fury would just be too quick for him, too clever. his defence would be too good and his movement would be too much for Joshua. Also, I don't think Joshua has the stamina that Wilder has, because like Wilder, to be able to like pull off that punch in the last round was impressive. I don't know if Joshua would be able to do that. We'll see. In terms of Wilder against Joshua, I mean, if that was Joshua fighting Wilder then, in terms of the amount of times that Fury managed it, he would have been sparked out, no question. But Fury was able to avoid that right hand, and his defence didn't allow Wilder to, the opportunities that fighting Joshua would allow him. So it's a tough one. I could say now, I just said what I said about the not fighting in America, but that's just for precaution. But I would say more or less 90% that fight ends in a knockout. I think Joshua would knock out Wilder, but it's definitely a dangerous fight for him. But if I was Wilder now and his team, because obviously he's fought now in his last 2 fights, he's finally stepped up to fight against good opponents. Now you can call like Fury like a cherry pick based on like the time out in the ring, and it undoubtedly was from his team at least, but it was still a very solid opponent. And now Wilder's in that position where he can't go back to fighting like Gerald Washingtons and Spilkers and Areolas and stuff like that. So he's now in a position where he has to fight against credible opponents. Joshua obviously has 3 belts. I mean, he's been doing that anyway, but he's got 3 belts. So there will be mandatories. Joshua is going to have to fight against credible opponents. So regardless of what went on with the politics of that, whose fault it was, 6-1 after does the other, 8 of one, 4, whatever it was, that fight, I think, should be made pretty soon. I mean, if you're Wilder now, you're not going to be able to just, cherry pick and fight all these no-hopers, these voluntary defences, and people. Before, no one cared because he was just there, like in front. No one was watching. A few people on the internet would call him a bum or whatever, but it wasn't really like he had the eyes of the boxing public on him. In America now, they expect something from him. So yeah, if I was him, I would try and make that Joshua fight. I mean, obviously the Fury fight could be quite lucrative as well, but it's not gonna get any easier for him now. And so as I say, very exciting times. We've got a lot of good heavyweights now, a lot of good fights to be made. I hope we don't just get sort of bogged down in politics and these fights not happening because people want to argue over money and venue. I understand that's going to be what it is, but I hope that all sides can basically come to some kind of agreement and we can start getting some of these fights made, because a lot of other people as well, before it was just this, it's got to be like Wilder, Josh, there's so many good fights to be made. I've heard about potentially Joe Joyce against Luis Ortiz. That's an interesting one. Maybe I'll make a video about that. But yeah, anyway, I've been kind of waffling on for long enough, so let me know what you lot think. Thank you very much for watching.